part 2. So if we look back, which we talked about a couple weeks ago in Revelation 7, there's this group of people who it says they made their robes white in the blood of the Lamb. And so we looked at that phrase written in Hebrew from the one newer book that came out that was Hebrew and James. I forget what it was, Revelation and James and something written in Hebrew. And it's like, it looks to me like that was what I would call a reverse translation. The words are exactly what you think they would be. So it looks accurate, but that means that it wasn't necessarily written in Hebrew. It was maybe written in Greek that they translated back into Hebrew, maybe 1,000 years ago or whatever it was, however old that document is. But there's something about the one that's written in Aramaic, which reads differently, of great interest. The point is, I wrote this out in I sent 4 pages that should be put up on the chat. If you look at the from written in the Aramaic, Allah beyom te, that's bet yod vav mem tav aleph. Well, the only word it's translated in that day is yod vav mem is day. In is the prefix letter bet, then the tav aleph is suffix. Angel, dalet, mem lamed aleph kaf aleph. So dalet is of, but see, that's a typical Aramaic thing, is to have a dalet prefix and an aleph suffix. They don't really do anything to the word that I know of. So the word in between the dalet and the aleph is just malak, which is angel or messenger. But mem lamed kaf, melech, that's king or one who takes counsel. Mem lamed aleph means full, complete, or accomplish, with kaf suffix meaning you. So you could say, well, the word for messenger, translated angel, is one who is sent, the mem, the one who is lamed kaf, sent on a mission to accomplish something, mem lamed aleph, the fullness of it. Aleph lamed aleph, aleph lamed is motion toward, aleph suffix, that is kind of the Aramaic that does nothing. And then dalet, shin bet ayin aleph, again, dalet prefix, aleph suffix, shin bet ayin is the number 7. Mem aleph. Well, see, all these words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words have an aleph suffix. Mem there is a prefix, which means of or from. But if aleph is the throwaway suffix, what does that mean? How do you translate that word? Well, if mem is something that's hidden, that's gestating, that's like in a womb, that's waiting to birth, and aleph is I am, I will, though it's not necessarily as a suffix, it's just kind of there, but it's this concept of something waiting, something developing, something waiting for the right time, the right condition, the right what, in order to aleph, which is to say, now here we go, which is you might say, a synonym with nooning out of the mem. And then here's the word dalet, ayin tav yod. Well, ayin tav yod dalet. Ayin tav yod means, well, ayin tav is time. Ayin tav hey is right now. Ayin tav yod would be my time. Yod dalet is a strong arm. Dalet ayin is knowledge. But the word atid, ayin tav yod dalet, is future, ready, prepared. You put that all together, you're saying that during the time of the 7th angel, something that's been getting ready, that's been waited for, like it's in the future, is now ready and it's now prepared. Well, that's like saying, Yeshua saying, I'm going away to prepare a place for you. And when it's ready, when I get it built, then I'll come get you. And it's like, well, what's holding up that occasion? Is it that there's a certain number of souls in this big bag that he has that he's dropping into women who are conceiving and becoming pregnant, and as soon as the bag is empty, whoop, I guess that's all the human souls that are going to be birthed. Okay, that's the end of the world. Or is it when things get so corrupt in human behavior that he says, that's it, I can't take anymore, I'm going to end it all, like he did in the days of Noah? Or did he just say, hey, look, there's this big giant celestial clock, and soon as the arm, the pendulum just starts swinging, and that's it, end of time, okay, blow the whistle, we're done. What is it that determines when the end of time is? This seems to indicate that something is being prepared. What's being prepared? The seventh angel. Well, wait a minute. The word seven means to swear a vow or satisfy the vow. What vow? He did say in Leviticus 26 that he's going to multiply the curse by 7 like the vow. Well, if the vow, the number 7, needs to be satisfied, and the curse then has to be satisfied, number 7, like the vow. And then in Ezekiel chapter 4, 1,000 years later, he says, okay, 290 days, house of Ephraim, a day for a year, 290 years, or excuse me, 390 years, that's times 7. If you go back, that's 2,730. Well, from 721 BC to 2010. So if you do this calculating and figuring, then that means when he says that's what it's going to be, and he raises his hand, then it has to be. Then you have to say, well, did he raise his hand and say, that's it, I've had it, I'm swearing that you guys have to wait 2,730 years before the future's ready to happen? The next word, Lamed Mem Zayin Ayin Kuf, Zayin Ayin Kuf, Za'ak, is an outcry, but it also means to convoke an assembly, like a Mikra Kodesh. This is Mazak, but it says it also, in the dictionary says it's an alarm bell. So if he has this big celestial timer in the sky and cranks the things up to 2,730 years, could it be? I'm just saying this is a picture. Then that is the timer, and soon it ding, instead of a ding, it's the 7th angel. Yeah, okay, the vow has been accomplished. That which has been memming now can aleph. The very next word, aleph, shin tav lamed mem. Well, shin tav lamed means transplant, gardener, or to strike roots. Tav lamed mem means folly, error, and sin, but it also means, it's the root of the word tehillim, which is like Psalms, which means praise, glory, and renown. There's a vow that something has to wait for a certain amount of time, and then the future can be present. 7th angel screams like an alarm bell that folly, error, sin, praise, glory, renown. Well, those are two opposite things. Praise, glory, and renown is, let's say, doing the Torah, and folly, error, sin is a fake non-Torah. But it's the same word, transplant, gardener, and to spread out and put roots in. Well, that reminds me of the parable that Yahusha gave us about he planted wheat, and at night an evil enemy came in and planted tares. And then the servant says, should we tear out the tares? No, don't tear them out yet. Their roots are entangled, and if you tear them out, you might lose some of the wheat at the same time you're pulling out the tares. It's hard to tell the difference. Wait until they're ready to harvest. What has that got to do with this word? That's what I see, what I can sense is in that word, Vav, Aleph, Shin, Tav, Lamed, Mem. If I could think of the tares, because if you read, see, the Jews don't talk about this because it's a New Testament proverb, parable that Yahusha gave. So I remember being in church and hearing about the wheat and the tares. And it's like, oh, what are the tares? The tares are the unbelievers. The tares are the carnal Christians. The tares are the fake believers who aren't really believers at all. And so when there's the rapture, they're going to be left behind and they're going to end up either burning in hell or having to go through the tribulation. That's the tares. But he's going to gather up all the wheat, the true believers, the good Christians, take them away in the rapture into the heaven to the banquet of the wedding supper of the Lamb that's been prepared. Wait a minute, but then there was also the parable that says the angels come and gather up the tares first, leaving the wheat in the field. So if a bunch of people get taken away and leaving behind the good ones, is the rapture taking away the good ones and leaving behind the bad? Or perhaps there's some event that take away all the bad and leave behind the good? Well, see, it's both ways. You don't know which is which. But what it says here is that at the time of the alarm going off, as if the vow, I'm playing off the number for the 7, mem aleph, atid, the future is ready, knowledge, dalet, well, the dalet is just a prefix, well, but it might mean that you've been told what the future is going to be, okay, and then you're all waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, but nobody knew. I never heard about the 2007 or 30-year curse until 2004 at a Sukkot. There was somebody talking about it. I'd never even heard of such a thing. But because of this next word, it has to do with a gardener, and when you transplant something, the roots haven't taken hold yet, because the very next word, next two words translated secret of Elohim, mystery of Elohim. It's Aleph, Resh, Zion, Hey. Well, Resh, Zion means secret. But Aleph, Resh, Zion is also wasting ruin. It's also the word for, or Resh, Zion, Hey, it's also the word for tight, solid, firm, the word for cedar, like a cedar tree, and the word for rice. Well, when rice is loose, it just rolls off it like loose sand. But when rice is wet or when rice is packed, it's real solid. Cedar is a type of wood that you can get it wet and it won't split and crack. That's why they use it for decks. Whereas fir or pine or some other words will split and get splinters. Cedar doesn't have a tendency to do that. It's a flexible thing. So, but it's the very next word following Aleph Shin Tav Lamed Mem. So if Aleph Shin Tav Lamed Mem means to transplant, or a gardener puts something in, replants it where the roots haven't taken hold, Aleph Resh Zayin Hey is the roots have taken hold. Well, that to me is like a picture of the young wheat and tares versus the well-established wheat and tares. And then the word is Dalet Aleph Lamed Hey Aleph. Again, the Dalet prefix, the Aleph suffix. Aleph Lamed Hey is Allah, translated deity or God. Hey Vav, well, that's just the word it, to exist, to be. There it is. So the mystery of Elohim, there it is. And then the word Dalet, prefix, Samic Bet Resh, saber or sabra. A sabra, that's one born in the land. There's a liqueur called sabra, which is chocolate and orange, an Israeli liqueur. But a sabra is one who's born in the land. But the word in the dictionary means to think, explain, make clear, opinion, argument, interpreted, logical, reasonable, hope, trust, appearance, countenance, conjecture, view, popular, hypothetical. What do you think that means? That's what it means. What do you think that means? It means that you get to sit around with your friends or yourself pondering, meditating, and saying, what is this? And that you have every right to do so. You don't just go to your priest and say, will you please tell me what this means? Or what did the rabbis tell me it means? Or what does the Talmud mean that say? Or what is the doctrines and great night councils of the Ecumenical Assembly of Bishops think this means? Was there some prophet that got insights from the Spirit that tell him what it means that you could tell me? This means I should sit around and do what we're doing here. Think, explain, make clear with opinion, argument, interpretation, logical, reasonable, Where is our hope? What does it look like? What do we think this is? And the word popular means it was for the common people. Then here's the last two words, lamed, ayin, bet, dalet, vav, he, yod, which is translated as he said to his servants, the prophets, or as he said to his worshipers and by the prophets. If you look at the Hebrew translation in the book of Revelation there, because the last word, nun, bet, yod, aleph, navia. Well, the word navi is prophet, but bet, yod, aleph is to arrive, and if nun is the prefix, that means it's happening. What's happening? That his servants are thinking as was prophesied? That his servants are talking about? Gee, if a real worshipful servant is supposed to keep the Moedim, what do you say we keep the Moedim? I think it should be on this calendar. Well, I think it should be on that calendar. Why don't we do both of them? Or you do that one and I'll do this one. And next year we'll talk about it some more. That's what it seems to be saying. But that's not the way the translation reads. Saber, Samik Bet Resh, like saber tooth, like the Smilodon, like that graphic. That's one of the reasons for the words. It means logical, reasonable, hypothetical. Think, have an opinion, explain, make clear. Each one has a view. Argue about it. Cause change. See, Samik Bet Resh. Bet Resh means pure and clean, but Samik Bet or Samik Bet Yod Bet. In Ezekiel 43, it says, this is the teaching regarding the temple, or regarding the house, the Hayakal, the power and capacity to prevail and contain it all. Saviv, Saviv, Kadosh, Kodashim. This is the teaching regarding, it's like, what is that phrase, Saviv, Saviv? Well, Samik Bet, or Samik Bet Bet, or Samik Bet Yod Bet. This is Samik Bet Resh. The pure and clean Samik Bet. The Samik Bet is entanglement, is Samik Bet Kaf. Environmental, it's like what's around you. It's a rotation, a traffic circuit. It means turned, changed, caused, transferred, recurring, encompass and circle. It's a roundabout, that sung on the Fragile album by Yes back in the 70s. Bring it about, old man, fine bran, drink largely. Samik Bet Tav is causation. Cause the turnabout. Affect. If you go into a railway station, if it's the end of a line, it goes to this roundabout and the train engine goes in and then they turn the whole platform. So now the train's headed back the other direction. Same concept. Well, if that's to think, to make clear, to have an opinion and to reason about what this stuff looks like, there's something about us doing that is going to cause a change. Yeah, but see, people have never been allowed to do that. You always had to go to the priest. You have to go listen to the pastor. Those guys with the lab coats, who's been authorized to control the masses. Tell us what to think. Tell us what the official doctrine is. The only way you're going to go back and be able to think is if you know what each letter of every word means. And then you'll have reason to ponder and think. Without this, you couldn't have that. It was illegal to read the Bible in your language. It was illegal, death sentence, to have a Bible until just a few hundred years ago, right before they gave us the King James. As a matter of fact, the King James Bible in England was the common, it was a radical change. It was the common people having the Bible in their own language. Before that, William Tyndale was put to death for translating from what? Latin, Greek into English. It was illegal. It was illegal in the days of what? Louis XIV of France to have a French Bible, from what I understand. Back in the era of the Waldenses and all, 1500s. So this idea that people can have Elohim's words, but if you have it in King James or French or Chinese or Russian, or those aren't his words. To have his words, especially the Paleo-Hebrew, not authorized by the rabbinical translation. Nun bet yod aleph. Bet aleph is to arrive, as is bet yod aleph. But bet yod is with me, in me, through me. Nun is the prefix letter, like a lightning bolt, like to engage. And aleph, being the suffix, is just Aramaic, you could say. So this is that which is set up by which now things are ready to go. But that's not the way it's translated. To drink largely, it's going to be either wasting ruin or firm, solid, tight. Well, that's like the battle lines are being drawn. Which side are you on? What did Yahweh say, or what did they tell you to believe he said? If you go down to Revelation 7:14, that's where, as we talked about, a number more than anybody can count. It says they washed the robes white and clean in the blood of the Lamb. So there's two, and I went over this, but I looked at it some more, so I'm going to address this again. I went over it a couple weeks ago. So if you look at it in the Hebrew versus looking at it from the Aramaic written with the Hebrew letters, the Aramaic, ve'chalal, chet lamed lamed, vav. Vav, chet lamed lamed, vav. Vav prefix and, or so. Vav suffix means he or it. Chet lamed lamed means profane, vile, defile, pierced, wounded, made hollow, punched a hole in. And then the word aleph, samik, tet, lamed, yod, he, vav, nun. Well, tet, lamed, yod is the word for lamb. Tet, lamed means to wander. So a lamb wanders around. He, samik, tet means to move or shift out of its place. So like a wandering, lost lamb, not walking the Yashar Derek. But that's not the word garment. In the dictionary, it says the word garment is aleph zadi tet lamed. Well, this is aleph samik tet lamed. And if you know the letters, you'll know that both the letter samik and the letter zadi can mean thorn. And there's the similarity between the two. But they're both different letters and they're both different words. But aleph zadi tet lamed is garment. And this is translated, they washed their robes and made them white. The next word, vav, chet, vav, resh, hey, chet, vav, resh, can mean white. But where's the word for garment? In the blood of the Lamb. The next word is aleph, nun, yod, nun, but nun, yod, nun means to sprout or increase. Aleph, nun, yod, nun means delicate or sensitive. Aleph, nun, nun means to groan, lament, bewail, complain, or mourn. Where's made them white in the blood of the Lamb? The word blood, bet, dalet, mem, aleph, is the next word, and the last word, dalet, aleph, mem, resh, aleph. Could that possibly mean lamb? You look that up, aleph, mem, resh, amer, like ka amer Yahweh, so said. It means to speak. It means commanded, thought in his heart, induced to say, to be high or boasted. Aleph, mem, resh, aleph, hey, take off, in flight, revolt, like a revolution. Aleph, mem, resh, hey, also statement, hem or fringe. Aleph, mem, yod, resh, like emir, the ruler of a Islamic piece of land, you might say, an emirate, like United Arab Emirates, the UAE. Summit, treetop, emir, commander, emirate, or saying. Aleph, mem, vav, resh, aleph is speaker. None of them mean lamb. So the only place you could get lamb is from that word aleph, samik, tet, lamed, yod, hey, vav, nun. They violated lamb, clarified, delicate, sensitive, blood, speak. How do you get they washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb? I don't see it. But then you look at the Hebrew version in that other book. It says vav resh, chet, zadi, vav. Well, that's the word. Resh, chet, zadi means wash or bathe. Resh, chet, zadi. Bet, gimel, dalet, yod, he, mem. Well, bet, gimel, dalet is garment. So if you look at the beginning of the alphabet, aleph, bet, gimel, dalet, that's the first four letters of the alphabet. Aleph, seen as a prefix, is I am, or I will. Bet, gimel, dalet is a garment, but it also means cloak, deceive, treachery, betrayal. That's like a spy coming in looking one way, but sneaking around and being somebody else. And then the word Zayin Kuf Kuf, Vav, Zayin Kuf Kuf Vav. Well, Zayin Kuf Kuf means to refine or purify, but it also means to bind, force, compel, to have sex with, spark or flash, distill, like to distill alcohol. It means a need, addicted, dependence, or chained. So there's a treacherous garment, and then there's this addiction of being chained with dependence, forced to do something. And then here's the word garment again. Bet, gimel, dalet, yod, he, mem. Treachery, betrayal, cloak of deceit. Bedam, hasha. Bet, dalet, mem, in blood. Hey, shin, hey. Well, there's the word lamb, blood of the lamb. So see, if I put it in the Hebrew and say, oh, this is an ancient book, well, there it says clearly. They washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the lamb. But if you look at it in the Aramaic, there's something else going on. Now, so think about this. Here's this group, more than anybody can count. They're standing there and they're saying something. They're saying they've washed clean their garment of deceit, purified and refined their cloak of betrayal, their shroud of treachery, by which they, gimel dalet, raided and pillaged by compelling dependence upon their priesthood by the blood of the Lamb, the promise which delayed, postponed, by them being cut off, separated for forsaking and transgressing the law, Torah, replaced by invented falsehood of waywardness. The violation, because of the blood of the Lamb, we don't have to keep no Torah. That was used as the mechanism to delay, postpone, extend the curse all the way out to 2010. Violation of the Torah, because Yahweh didn't change that, shifted out of place the order of arrangement, evident and clear. Groan, bewail, laments, once you have become aware, sensitive, it's either similar to what Yahweh said or a fantasy, in which case you're dismembered. You either do what he said or you're cut off. So the phrase, they made the robes white in the blood of the Lamb. That same phrase can mean defiled, hollowed out, shifted out of place like a wandering stray lamb. As a comparison to the garment, the Bet Gimel Dalet, like Yeshua came in the Torah, the word made flesh. So the Aleph Bet Gimel Dalet, Yeshua's garment was as a garment arranged, set in order, tailored, spiffy, neat, like a tuxedo, white, clear, distinct, noble, delicate, sensitive, dignified, with similarity to the words spoken by the ruler of highest rank and prestige, the Emir. Claiming to be, I'm translating the words used to make that sentence. They made the robes right in the blood of the Lamb. Claiming to be free of the words on account of the blood of the Lamb, they profane, violate, dishonor, pierced, wounded, made hollow, full of holes, disordered, out of place, just like the picture image of the crucifixion. Crown of thorns, exalted in disgrace, enthroned by villainy, provoking a fury of contest, rivalry, hot vexation, furious. And then it's as if you look at the meaning of these words, it's like Yahweh saying, am I too sensitive? Am I a complainer? I will give you something to groan, lament, bewail, mourn. Dismembered, you're amputated. Take my words away, take you away. Revolt, have your fantasy all by yourself. This relationship is now deferred, interrupted, put on hold because of the blood of the Lamb. So is my understanding, this is the way it works. This is what we're told to believe because of the blood of the Lamb. What are the rules here on planet Earth? The Jews conspires to have the Romans kill God. So no Christian ever has to do anything Yahweh ever told his people they must do. What? Yahweh said to do stuff. Why don't his people have to do stuff? That's what he said. Oh, the Jews conspired with the Romans to kill God, so now nobody has to do anything Yahweh told his people to do. Regardless of who that guy was, why they did it, how they did it, has nothing to do what Yahweh told his people to do, in my estimation. Second point, because of the blood of the Lamb, the only law to transcend the veil, make it from Old Testament to New Testament, is to give your favorite priest 10% of all your income. Every one of you. That's the only law that made it through to the New Testament. JC established his church by nailing the Torah, the law, to the cross, just like Paul said, proving that only by grace are people saved. Yeah, but see, that never had anything to do with being Yahuwah's people. He's dressed up in the Moedim, and he wants this testimony of his identity to be declared on the face of the earth. What's that got to do with being saved and going to heaven? Let's not do what he said. We can save and go to heaven. Lynn, your microphone keeps going on. Number 3, the Holy Spirit, as I understand in the church experience, is given as proof of truth by giving signs and wonders to the people who are wicked, demanding signs and wonders, validating by those signs and wonders that everything Yahweh said is now null and void. No demand of hearing or doing anything that he imposed upon his people. What? No wonder it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. But he told us to stop and think, to savor Samik Bet Resh. Argue the point. Think about it. Another point. The Jews were given, Ezekiel 20, bad laws that no one can live by, so that in extreme exasperation, they would happily, readily, desperately grab a hold of Christianity, which absolves them of all and any necessity to keep every chok of Yahuwah, which a man does, as a man does, he will live in it, by it, through doing so, like Yahweh said. Another point. What is the mystery of Elohim? So this other verse, the Hey, or the Aleph, Resh, Zayin, Hey, translated mystery of Elohim. In looking at it, like I'm saying, it means wasting ruin, firm, solid, tight, cedar, and rice. But Resh Zayin is the word secret. So what is the secret of Elohim? Think about that for a minute. This seventh angel is saying, okay, the secret of Elohim is complete. What does that mean? If Resh Zayin is secret, then Resh Zayin Hey is the express secret. Aleph, Resh, Zayin, Hey. Aleph means I will, or Aleph is the strong, great move to do something, like shooting an arrow. Resh is the exalted man. Zayin is the swearing of vow, the seventh letter, the set apart stuff of the exalted man that he set in order. Hey is express. I asked my wife the other day, and just what top of her head, she said, the orders that the guy who gives the orders gave. That's the secret. The orders that the guy who gave the orders gave. Is that the secret of Elohim? Is that the Resh Zayin Hey? If that's the case, what's the distinction between the wheat and the tares? It's not good Christian versus bad Christian. It's what did he say versus I don't care what he said. We have the imperative command, chuk, het kuf, to Shema, Shomer, and Asha, what he said, versus, hey, we're free, absolved. We have no regard of anything that God of the Old Testament told those Jews way back then to do. So if you look at these, there's the concept of the emir, the one who's worthy of dignity. That's like being kings and priests. The words worthy of king and priest, the penultimate epitome of serious matters. One of the meanings of the words here was navigating perilous waters of crag and cliff, like extreme rock climbing without ropes. And it's like one false move, one loose thing, and you're done. Yahweh gave us his words as safekeeping in any situation of all of Adam's history on the face of the earth. Wasting ruin, the peril of one false maneuver. If we walk in the ways of the Torah, we have the blessings of Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28. We were told that they were nailed to the cross and done away with. Moshe, in his last words in Deuteronomy, what was it, 34, he said, his last words, your enemies will try to deceive you. The only thing they have is to lie to you. If they lie to you and you turn your back on Yahuwah and his chok, his commands, his law, his instructions, his Torah, then their weapons will prevail and pierce you. But if we walk in the ways of Yahuwah's Torah, any weapon that our enemy forms will pierce their hearts. Sorry about that. It's like black and white, distinct difference. Firm, solid, tightly packed versus loose, transplanted, insecure. Praise, glory, renown versus folly, error, sin. It's Aleph, Shin, Tav, Lamed, Mem versus Aleph, Resh, Zayin, Hey. Is that the secret of Elohim? So if this is what's really going on, if you take all these verses, all these matters, step back and look at it, that's the subject of the treasure map. You can't see it. It's one of these graphics on the... If there's a basic theme that could be read into all the letters of the alphabet, what is it? It's a family history. The overview is saying, Yahweh chose Abraham and his lineage because he said, I know Abraham will teach his children. That's the one characteristic of why he chose Abraham. Abraham will teach his children. So Abraham was given promises, if you walk in my ways. So when David died and Solomon took over the kingship, Yahuwah told Solomon, you got to walk in my ways. And if you don't, it's all coming apart. You're going to lose the whole thing. You walk in my ways and I'll give you the same promises. He said that to Jeroboam. When Solomon lost his kingdom in the days of his son, Rehoboam, he gave the northern kingdom, the northern 10 tribes, to a fellow by the name of Jeroboam. And Yahweh said to Jeroboam, you walk in my ways and I'll make you the same promise of destiny that I made to David. That now David only has the last two. I got to leave him something, so I'm going to leave him two because I made a promise in eternal covenant. But Jeroboam looks around and says, wait a minute. If I keep the northern kingdom walking in the culture of the Jews, the southern kingdom of Israel, I'm going to lose it. So the first thing he did is he set up idols at Dan and Bethel. Dan, make a judgment. Bethel, house of God. He set up two idols and he set up other Moedim. Yahuwah said, you walk in my ways, you keep my Moedim, you teach my people the Torah, they will retain me, Yahuwah Zavot, as the Elohim of Israel. And I, because of you doing that, I will bless you and strengthen you and make your family lineage solid throughout the generations. But if you don't, it's coming apart. I'm going to take it all away. And Jeroboam thought, I better not do what Yahweh said, because then I'll lose everything. So he set up idols and changed the holidays and lost everything. And we are now at the tail end of the promised curse of 2,730 years. Since the Syrians finally took over the kingdom, which is about, let's just say big numbers, 721 BC, which was about, let's say 2 to 300 years after David and Solomon. So 200 or 300 years after David's time, the Assyrians took it all over, and it's played up until 2010, 2,730 years, just an interesting number. So here we are. So if that's the alarm, I'm just saying, if that's the alarm, maybe, who knows, of the seventh angel, hey, the vow that Yahweh said, I'm going to kick you guys out and let you be living under the dominant tyranny, authority of bad laws nobody can live by. So Ephraim, northern kingdom, you now can come back to your father's house, eat the food from his table. Eat the chazir, the food of one who returns. What food? The Torah, these words. Well, Yeshua being in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights, kind of like the nearly 3,000 years since the days of David. That's a picture, that's a model of that. Yeshua in the grave, his body decomposing, but yet he came out fully whole. If that's the picture of Ephraim, the northern kingdom, there's nothing to do with the Jews. The rabbis can have the authority over their family, their clan, their southern kingdom, all they want. But Yahuwah said in Ezekiel 37, once his people came back to his ways, hey, Ezekiel, take 2 sticks, right on one for Yehuda and his comrades, and right on the other one for Ephraim and his comrades, and put them together, and they'll become one in your hand. The 2 sticks will become one in your hand. Looks like the letter Zadi. Letter Zadi speaks of blossoming out of the 3 days and 3 nights in the grave. Pei Zadi is to explode, is to detonate, is to scatter, is to blossom. It's like the mouth opening, the words of the mouth resurrecting, this language coming back. If that's where we are, then the hope and the expectation is not, oh, rapture us out of here right now, please. Well, he could if he wanted to. But remember when Yeshua came out of the grave, and that's the great model. He hung around for 40 more days after he resurrected. So if he resurrected, if that's the Zadi, the grave opening is the Pei, the mouth opening of the mouth of the grave opening, Pei, blossoming with resurrection, Zadi, that's like the family of Israel being restored in full bloom. And then Yeshua hung around for 40 days before he koofed. Kumi, arise up into the clouds, but Kuf is also coming back down, and Kum is Hamakom, the place coming back as Resh. Shin Tov, licensed, authorized, permitted. He said, the last things he said in Matthew, all authority has been given to me in heaven and earth. So he's claiming to be the Resh Shin Tov guy who's taken off and coming back. What I'm saying is that to see this as the Amad Basodi, as the secret of Elohim, the secret, the Razah of Elohim that's firmly packed and solid, that's the Amad being locked into a Sodi. The transplant that's loose, if anything, is he picked us up and threw us scattered across the face of the earth where we're not supposed to take root. Oh, live there for the 3,000 years, but that's not our home. That's not where we are. Who are we? Israel, Yisrael. Who are you really? What does that mean? To wear the Moedim is to wear the testimony that Yahweh's avot is Elohim, my Elohim. And I don't know of any occasion in the history of the face of the earth, other than David, that anybody has proudly worn that. Right after David, Solomon amalgamated mixture of 1,000 different women with their cultural, religious customs, which spun it into completely fallen apart, invaded by enemies, Babylon, Assyria, ruining everything. And it's been little moments of growth, you might say, Yeshua even being here, and it's like, oh, Jerusalem, I would have, but you wouldn't, so that's all over. In the first century, man, you had the whole church spin out, and it's solidifying it in the third century, and it's been falsehood ever since. The falsehood has been, don't do what Yahweh said. That's the falsehood aspect of the church. Do not do what Yahuwah said. Yeah, but he said so. Is that the great controversy? Is that the great struggle? So that's why for Ellen White wrote the book, The Great Controversy, and say it's about the Sabbath day. The Sabbath day is just the tip of the iceberg. It's what did Yahuwah say? It's the whole thing. So Ellen White also said, oh, the Sabbath day is important, but the Moedim, those are ceremonial laws that were nailed to the cross and done away with. So forget her, forget that reasoning. Argue about it. Samik bet resh. Saber-toothed wildcat, Ephraim. Like that, there's a little graphic here. Anyway, we talked about that once before. I'm just saying that the eyes of the two ions of the wildcat, the nose is the dalet, the mouth is written like a tav. It's ayin dalet, ayin tav, until the time that we come back and argue these points that people may not like to hear. But the point is, if Israel's not thinking and talking about and doing and watching and guarding and hearing and having a heart and soul for Yahuwah's words, we're still being victimized and overlorded by our enemy. It's not Yahuwah's avot, and we're not his ayin mem people. And if you go back to then to Zechariah 8:23, where the people say, Ka'amer Yahweh's avot, beyomim, in the days, hey mem hey. Hey mem hey is the word vey, noisy, boisterous, coveted, desired. Hey mem vav mem is confounded, stunned, and terrified. So in the days when everything is going like crazy and you're going like, we sure wish we had some clarity, we sure knew what was going on. Asher, Yod, Chet, Zion, Yod, Kuf, Vav. Well, Chet, Zion, Kuf means seized, held, kept, regarded, sure, certain, maintained, and encouraged, strong and firm. And the word Asher, who, that which, straight, valid, authentic, confirmed, praised and praiseworthy and blessed. Asher as a synonym with Yeshar of Isharel. Whoever would be straight, valid, authentic, confirmed, like the genuine wheat in the field that are his people, will seize, keep, regard, sure and certain. Why? Because he said so. Ka'amer Yahweh's avot, that's why. So in the days where the confounding, terrifying, bewildering, noisy, all this information, the ones who will confirm Yahweh said so, grab a hold of that. You got to know how to read his words in order to do that. Then it says 10 men from all the languages. Ayin Shin Resh is 10, but it's also wealthy. The word for men, Aleph, Nun, Shin, Yod, Mem. Well, the Yod, Mem is the suffix plural, but Aleph, Nun, Shin. Well, Aleph could be the prefix meaning I will. Nun, Shin, Yod. Well, Nun, Shin, Hey means made to forget. forgetfulness or oblivion, put off, postponed. Hey, I bought it on credit. Woohoo! I got 2 years with no interest. I'll worry about it then. Oop, I forgot. I still owe the whole amount. So the word anashim does mean men, but it can mean our wealth was made to forget. We were robbed, and our inheritance was taken into oblivion, kind of like the Sedekah Vi. Makal, of all, Lashon, Lashonot, of all the languages. But the word of all, mem prefix, mem kaf lamed he is perfection. Kaf lamed lamed is complete, perfect, a gorgeous example, the epitome. Mem kaf lamed lamed is encyclopedia or crowned. Mem kaf lamed lamed he is university. Like of all the information that could be had, this is the crowning epitome of wealthy information. But we were made to forget because of the changing variant tongue, the differences of the Goyim, which is Hey Gimel Vav Yod Mem, Hey Gimel Hey is the navigating. Because of the way the different languages think, we were robbed and made to forget our inheritance as the 10 tribes of Israel. But to take hold, again, Vav He Chet Zayin Yod Kuf Vav, same word as previously, seized, held, kept, regarded, to Shema Shomer and Asha is how you take hold. Sure, certain, maintained, and encouraged, because Ka'amer, because Yahweh said so, Ka'amer, Yahweh's a vote, going back to the beginning of that verse 823. Then it says, Bekanaf, of the skirt or of the hem, of the wing, of one Ish Yehudi, man of Yehuda. Yahudi is he, Yod, He Vav Dalet Yod. Yod prefix, Yod suffix. He will my Hod, Hodu la Yawah ki tov, ki leolam hazdo. Hodu, give praise, give honor, give glory, give resounding, reverberating, echoing across the world, the landscape, acknowledgement of guilt and sin. We're acknowledging where the ripoff was, our betrayal was, what went wrong, and we're acknowledging that we failed to care or hear the Kol Yahuwah, the voice of our Elohim, Kol Adonai, my master's voice. And what they say to the Ish Yehudi is, Nun Lamed Kaf He, Nalacha, Amka, because, Amkam, Ayin Mem Kaf Mem, let us go with you because Shemanu Elohim Amkam. And the word Shemanu, Shin Mem Ayin Nun Vav. Nun Vav is the suffix meaning we, but Shin could be read as a prefix letter of that which belongs to, in which case Mem Ayin Nun. Well, Mem is a prefix letter of Ayin Nun, as in Ayin Nun Hey, like in Isaiah 58, where it means attend with interest and respond. It's a furrow. It's digging into a trench and digging down and digging in. Afflicted, cloudy. But see, what I'm saying is this is in the word Shemanu. It's not just, yeah, we're listening. It's like, no, we are focused into this rut with all of our attention as a response to knowing the suggestion, hearing that, oh, this really is his voice. This really is his stuff. The Moedim really are his testifying of his identity. The word let us go with you, the word going is nun lamed kaf, hey. To take counsel is mem lamed kaf. Mem and nun, as we said before, can shift positions pretty readily. Mem lamed kaf is royalty. Mem lamed lamed is speak, uttered, rub, scrape, folded hem, fringe, tattered, or frayed. Hey lamed kaf, which nun is a different prefix, it means walk, continue, led, guided, wanderer, wayfarer, flowing course, mood, or subject for study, or something to go by. But you go back to the word kanaf, bet, kaf, nun, pay. Hold on to the wing of one Jew, or the fringe, or the word kanaf means wing or skirt. Kaf nun is that word yes. Yes, I can. Noon pay, because bet could be the condition of prefix. Kaf noon can mean yes, but kaf means like. What's noon pay? Sift, winnow, sieve. Examine closely, purifying. Noon vav pay, put a vav in between the noon pay, and it's a panoramic view or the treetop. When all these things have come upon you, the blessing and the curse, Deuteronomy 30. In conclusion here, I'm just trying to say that the way to do Zechariah 8 is by realizing that we're at Deuteronomy 30, which means we're at Ezekiel 36 and Ezekiel 37. And it's got nothing to do with the rabbinical authority or the church ecclesiastical authority of their doctrines and liturgies, that the same words of the blood of the Lamb can mean that they were given the right, the prerogative to imagine a fantasy and invent stuff and claim to be the authority that rules that invention, just like the rabbis do, just like the churchmen do. But it's our place and our time and our responsibility to go back to what did Yahweh say, to recognize Kol Adonai, the voice of my Adonai, and to find another person who hodus Yahuwah's avot and say, Nakla Amkam, Tishamanu Elohim Amkam. So here we are. Find somebody to keep the Moedim with. So we're at the end. We should call this concluded here today.
Oh, hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hodula Iwaki Tov. Ki Leolam Chazdo. Yahweh. Father in heaven, your words of the Torah talked, lifted, held, admired, embraced, written on our hearts. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this season of your Moeds and your Ruach HaKadosh. And for all of us, your people, with your words of the Torah written on our hearts. Shammai Yisrael. Yahweh Eloheinu. Yahweh Chad. Hallelujah. Amen.
Thank you. Just real quick, for those who are regarding the Zadok calendar, the 18th of September will be Yom Teruah, coming up on this Wednesday, 3 days from now, is the 15th. Yom Teruah, and then 10 days later, Yom Kippur, and then on the 15th of the month would be the beginning day of Sukkot, just as one of the reckonings of one of the calendar considerations. Shalom.